A very good evening, viewer, and thank you so much for joining us on GBS Late Night News. My name is Eric Munene. Now, Deputy President William Ruto has appealed to teachers to give dialogue a chance in resolving their grievances, saying the government was ready, willing, and committed to finding a speedy solution to the teachers' strike that has paralyzed learning in public schools in the country for the last 1 week.
Speaking at the homecoming ceremony of the Teso South MP at Etta Wright Primary School grounds, Mr. Ruto appealed to the Kenya National Union of Teachers (NAT) and the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Teachers (KUPPET) to go to the negotiating table with the government, saying he was sure such a meeting will come up with a solution.
President mwenyewe amesema na serikali yote tumesema ya kwamba tuko tayari kuketi chini kutafuta suluhu ya mambo ambayo yanawahusu walimu wetu. We are ready. We are committed. Na tunawauliza wale wanaosimamia walimu, jameni, haina haja kusema ya kwamba hamutazungumza na serikali. Sasa kama hautazungumza na serikali, hii makubaliano itakubalianwa kwa mahali gani?
The petitioner and the employer does not have a case at all, and therefore we expect them to stay put and ensure that when the ruling comes out on Monday, it will be in our favor.
We are telling our very good, able chair KNUT, Bwana Sosion, you are a leader of a very important constituency called the Kenyan teachers. You cannot run away from dialogue and the negotiation table. You cannot.
The Deputy President gave the assurance that the government was determined to ensure that there is no repeat of a similar teachers' strike in future, adding it was willing to engage them to realize this goal. The MPs who spoke at the function concurred with him, noting that the industrial action taken by the teachers was hasty and not in public interest. They noted that the Jubilee government was hardly 3 months in office and should be given time to sort out the teachers' grievance that date back to 1997.
Walimu tafadhali, sijui kama tunaelewana. Kwa sababu sasa hata mkitukasirikia, mnasema 1997 Moi alikubaliana na nyinyi. 2003 Kibaki alikubaliana na nyinyi. Na mbona nyinyi hamujakubaliana na sisi?
Subsequent to raising issues, it is our duty to sit down as peace-loving Kenyans, men and women who love structure in the way we implement our policies, to sit down, to dialogue with each other so that we can resolve our problems. Dialogue is the issue.
We are prepared to tell them our side of the issues. We are ready to listen to their side of the issues. And I am sure and confident that we are going to arrive at an amicable solution. We are waiting for our teachers to come to the negotiating table so that we can agree, they can go back to class, our kids can go back to school, and we can move on as a country.
Nataka kuuliza walimu, tafadhali kuja muongee na Deputy President mulipwe. Sasa kama hamtaki kuongea mtalipwa namna gani? Si ndio? Si watu wanakaa chini wanaongea?
The MPs at the same time called for prudent use of devolved funds, noting that some governors had come up with indefensible budgets by allocating huge sums of money on things like entertainment. Deputy President Ruto reassured people of Western region that the Jubilee government will not discriminate against them on account of their political affiliations in the last elections. Agnes Minor, GBS News.
Now, still on teachers' strike, the ongoing nationwide teachers' strike is becoming a major scourge to the country's political leadership as appeals are made for the negotiation between the teachers and the government. MP for Kajiado West, Moses Ole Sakuda, has now called on President Uhuru Kenyatta and other stakeholders in the education sector to negotiate and bring to an end the ongoing teachers' strike that has compromised studies in all public schools.
July 1st, the teacher strike enters its second week and both the government and the unions remain adamant on their positions. Neither side is willing to cede the ground yet. Despite many appeals made for the two adversaries to engage into dialogue, the teachers' unions NAT and KUPPET have maintained they will not take the route to dialogue unless the government gives in to their demands.
Let us come together and talk about it and find a way forward.
But MP for Kajiado West, Moses Ole Sakuda, has called on teachers to give dialogue a chance so as to address the stalemate that has rendered students to a very awkward situation.
My praise to the teachers, to the union, let us not politicize the issues. I was a teacher. You know, I know the experience of a teacher. And I am asking the government, and I'm asking President Uhuru, please get these people together. Let us not confront each other over matters that are this important for our kids. Monday, we need to see our kids in schools.
Sakuda has also warned of the impending controversial VAT bill to be introduced to Parliament that is likely to result into prices of basic commodities going up.
The Budget Committee cannot sit back and just expect a Kenyan, a common mwananchi, to pay more for the flour, to pay more for the bread that they are having. We will sit down, we'll analyze it, we'll look for, before that bill ever gets to the House, we will analyze a way that government can be able to increase and raise more revenue as opposed to putting that wage bill and that burden on the common mwananchi.
The MP was speaking in his Kajiado West constituency where he had attended a Sunday service in Kipeto Church in Kiserian. Samuel Tawish, GBS News.
Let's now move on to the trip by the United States of America President in Africa. Deputy President William Ruto said today that failure by the US President Barack Obama to come to Kenya during his current African tour was well within his rights and does not cost the Kenyan leadership sleepless nights. Ruto says Kenya had many other friends worldwide whom they will continue to cooperate with, noting that the reported Obama snap to visit his father's homeland would not affect Kenya's bilateral relations with the United States of America.
The Deputy President was speaking at the St. Gabriel Catholic Church, Bahati, Nakuru County, where he joined the congregation for Sunday Mass. He further added that the Jubilee government was keen on deepening trade and economic ties with other friendly countries and cited the recent visit by President Uhuru Kenyatta to Uganda, where he held a tripartite meeting with President Yoweri Museveni and Paul Kagame of Rwanda as one such effort.
Wakenya lazima wajue nchi hii itajengwa na jasho na nguvu na uwezo ya Wakenya. Na tuko tayari kushirikiana na serikali zingine, nchi zingine. Wiki chache ama wiki iliyopita rais wetu alienda Uganda kuunganisha East African Community. Kesho ataenda Burundi katika harakati hiyo, kwa sababu tunataka kuleta watu wa East Africa pamoja, tuweze kufanya biashara pamoja, utalii, ukulima, ndio tuweze kupanua uchumi, tuhakikishe ya kwamba wananchi wetu wako na utajiri.
In a thinly veiled attack on the US president's sentiments on the same-sex marriages, the Deputy President emphasized that Kenya was a God-fearing nation, saying it will not accept alien mannerisms that were in conflict with Christianity and African practices and traditions.
Hatuamini yale mambo mengine watu wengine wanatembeza humuhumu. Sisi tunaamini maneno ya Mungu, tunaamini katika mila na desturi ya Afrika, na tunaamini katika maneno ya Mungu. And we will work and partner with nations that share in the sovereign belief in God. We will work with friends across continents, people who believe in God. Those who believe in other things, that is their business.
On devolution, Mr. Ruto made it clear that the central government was ready and prepared to transfer power, resources and responsibility to the county governments to ensure they deliver on their mandates. He noted that the government recognized county governments as units where local development is anchored. The Deputy President expressed confidence that the county governments will provide the basis of the country's economic growth to double digits. Ruto expressed satisfaction that the county government of Nakuru had resolved leadership wrangles that were threatening to cripple its operations, saying there was no need to generate acrimony that would derail the development agenda this early in their administration.
Nakuru, we have no political problem. What there is are issues or procedures that we are discussing between the county assembly and the executive, and that is normal. But unfortunately, it has been given a different dimension through our media. But we are also talking to our media so that we tell them that our county is bigger than other small things.
Once again, Mr. Ruto appealed to the teachers to come to the negotiating table with the government to end the ongoing strike. Later on, Ruto said the government will release 6 billion Kenya shillings for women and youth this week, adding the funds will be distributed at constituency level to ensure equity in disbursement.
Quite interesting exchanges there by the Deputy President of Kenya, William Ruto, and the President of the United States of America, Barack Obama. Now moving on, in about 3 to 4 weeks' time, the over 5,000 Mau Mau torture victims who qualified for compensation from the British government after an out-of-court settlement are expected to smile all the way to the bank despite the looming contention between them and the Law Society of Kenya. I beg your pardon. Now, it's in this respect that the Mau Mau War Veterans Association today lashed out at the Eric Mutua-led faction, urging them to stay away from their compensation. According to Gitua Kahengeri, who led some of the MWVA members, Eric Mutua's interest in the compensation is a move aimed at satisfying his personal whims, which shall not succeed.
After recording success from the independence struggle, in came the struggle for compensation that saw a deal reached in a considerably shorter time. However, the struggle is seemingly far from over, as fresh contention as to who has a share in the 19.9 million British sterling pound awarded by the British government has shown its glaring face. After the June 6, 2013 out-of-court settlement was reached, a number of fresh tussles have been witnessed, with the Law Society of Kenya led by its chair Eric Mutua being seen to play an active role.
Kama sisi tuliona mzungu ataharibu sisi na ataharibu watoto na watoto na watoto wa watoto wetu, na tukapenda twende tufukuze yeye aondoke, basi watu walioona namna hiyo huwezi kufikiria ni wajinga. Kwa hivyo tunauliza Mutua wache tu, sisi si wajinga.
But what we're asking the LSK chair is not confuse his personal interest in whatever matter he's presenting before court and the settlement that the Mau Mau War Veterans Association recently agreed to.
It is this keen interest on the brokered deal that is now disturbing the over 5,228 torture victims, and they are now questioning why the interest now.
Kwa hivyo Mutua asifikirie kama sisi ni watu wajinga tu ambao ni lazima kila mtu azungumuze tungefanya hii, tungefanya hii. Sisi tulijua ya kufanya na tulifanya na tukashinda kesi. Watu wetu sasa watalipiwa fidia hiyo.
This has been a very clear case about very specific individuals who have all consented to the settlement. They have agreed to the matter, and there is no scramble. There shouldn't be any scramble, and that is our position.
According to Gitu Wakahegeri, Eric Mutua and the LSK Chief Executive Officer Apollo Mboya have embarked on a move to ensure that the Mau Mau War Veterans Association members don't benefit from the agreed 350,000 shillings each compensation. He said the two learned friends have gone to an extent of tagging them as fraudster, a matter they highly take exception over.
These are personal injury claims for Kenyan victims of colonial torture who work under the banner of Mau Mau War Veterans Association.
Kwa hivyo watu ambao watalipiwa 5,228 ni wale ushahidi wao ulifaa kuwa ushahidi wa kutolewa katika koti.
According to Kahengeri, Eric Mutua has claimed to be the lawyer who spearheaded the talks with the British government, a claim that get to questions. He further regrets the concerted effort by the LSK team to sell a new group called Mau Mau Original Kenya, whom they say are the original claimants of the compensation from the British government.
Bwana Mutua na wenzake wanatumia picha ya president, wanatumia logo ya nchi ya Kenya kwa sababu ya udanganyifu.
According to Gitu, the agreed compensation was for those torture victims who qualified for compensation, and if another group was interested to file a further suit, they should go ahead and leave them alone with their compensation.
Sisi tunapenda hivyo, lakini kwa ile ambayo tulipeka Uingereza ya watu waliokuja katika chama cha Mau Mau War Veterans Association, hiyo tumemaliza.
Jojo Kachi, GBS News.
Let's move on now to health. New HIV treatment guidelines by the World Health Organization recommend offering antiretroviral therapy earlier. Recent evidence indicates that early initiation will help people with HIV to live longer, healthy lives and substantially reduce the risk of transmitting HIV to others. Now, the move could avert an additional 3 million deaths and prevent 3.5 million more new HIV infections between now and 2025, as Josephine Owera reports, courtesy of UNTV.
The new recommendations are presented by the World Health Organization's consolidated guidelines on the use of antiretroviral drugs for treating and preventing HIV infection, as new data reveal a total of 9.7 million people were taking these life-saving drugs at the end of 2012.
Over the last 10 years, we have seen an impressive scale-up of HIV treatment. According to latest data that we are just releasing, about 10 million people are now accessing antiretroviral therapy, which is many, many more than a few years ago. This gives us a lot of optimism that indeed these new guidelines can be implemented and will be implemented by countries.
WHO has based its recommendation on evidence that treating people with HIV earlier with safe, affordable and easier to manage medicines can both keep them healthy and lowers the amount of virus in the blood, which reduces the risk of passing it to someone else. The report notes that if countries can integrate these changes within their national HIV policies and back them up with the necessary resources, they will see significant health benefits at the public health and individual level.
And if, according to some calculations that we did, these guidelines will be implemented by 2025, we are estimating that an additional 3 million deaths would be averted and that about 3.5 million new infections could be prevented, which is obviously a very impressive figure.
The new recommendations also include providing antiretroviral therapy, irrespective of their CDF count, to all children with HIV under 5 years of age, or pregnant and breastfeeding women with HIV, and to all HIV-positive partners where one partner in the relationship is uninfected. The organization continues to recommend that all people with HIV, with active tuberculosis or with hepatitis B disease receive antiretroviral therapy.
Probably the most important recommendation is earlier initiation of treatment for people living with HIV, better and safer use of drugs, better monitoring of patients, and also improved service delivery.
The organization is further encouraging countries to enhance the ways they deliver HIV services, for example by linking them more closely with other health services such as those for tuberculosis, maternal and child health, sexual and reproductive health, and treatment for drug dependence. Josephine Owera, GBS.
Now from health, let's talk about black magic. Beliefs in witchcraft and other occult forces are widespread in Africa, as they are in many parts of the world. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, thousands of children are accused of witchcraft, whereas economic hardship, conflict, urbanization, displacement and family breakups are identified as the underlying causes of the phenomenon.
It seems like the stuff of legends, but accusations of sorcery and witchcraft still exist, and they can affect the most vulnerable. Every morning, Josiane comes to Children's Voice, a youth center for counseling and support. The young orphan lived with her aunt in Goma until she was accused of witchcraft. One morning while I was at school, a child had a fit at home. It was like an epileptic seizure. He was brought to the hospital and the doctor said he couldn't make a diagnosis. Since that day, my uncle's wife said I was responsible for that illness, as she had never seen anything like that before. Her uncle's family threw her out of the house. When people said I was a witch, it hurt me, and I told myself I must get married to find a home on my own. When we talked to the family, we realized that the girl couldn't stay here anymore. She was threatened to be killed. She was beaten many times, and the girl was traumatized. Josiane found refuge in Children's Voice for psychosocial support, healthcare and education. At Children's Voice, Josiane starts a new life. She has resumed her education, made new friends and has started to smile again. In the past in Goma, there were many cases of killings. A child would be stoned to death, a child would be burnt alive, and nobody could defend the child. If you defended the child, you'd be accused of being a witch yourself and be killed. So we have had positive results. As for the past 2 years, no child was killed or burnt alive because he was accused of sorcery. Children's Voice works with UN agencies such as UNICEF and the Congolese Special Police for the protection of children and women. Major David Bodeli, who heads the special unit, tried to enforce the law on child protection, but it's quite a challenge.
The law says that accusing a child of witchcraft is punishable by 1 to 3 years penal servitude. So the law is absolutely explicit. So it is very much more severe for the person who accuses the child of being a witch. But are people aware of a law meant to protect children and that punishes those who accuse children of witchcraft? The answer is no, unfortunately.
Agnes Minor, GBS News.
Now let's take a look at GBS Sport News. Welcome to GBS Sports. Now, Kenya played Fiji in the third place playoff while England battled New Zealand in the main cup finals of the Rugby World Cup in Moscow at the Luzhniki Stadium on Sunday. Mike Friday's reign in the competition was put on hold as England claimed a 12-5 victory during the second semi-final encounter. Samoa played Canada in the plate final as host Russia wrapped up the Bowl Trophy against Japan on a rain-soaked pitch as curtains came down on the event.
The national sevens rugby team suffered a 12-5 defeat to England in the World Cup rugby semi-finals in Russia. The match played under the showers saw Kenya lose ground against the Britons on Sunday as Dan Norton was a thorn in the last defense line before he landed 2 tries for England as Lewis Pratt had one successful conversion to his name. Head coach Mike Friday made numerical changes in the second half as Captain Andrew Amonde landed a try for Kenya before Lavin Asego missed a conversion on a rain-soaked pitch. Thereafter, Kenya played Fiji in the third place playoff after the Fijians suffered a 17-0 loss to world champions New Zealand as most of the matches were suspended because of the weather in the capital.
Samasoni, very, well, he's in under the post for the opening time and almost in the blank.
Earlier, Kenya sealed a 24-19 win against France in the main cup quarterfinals as Collins Injera and Humphrey Kayange landed crucial tries against a resistant French side. Paul Albaladejo and Dal Igna scored 2 tries before the game was forced into extra time following a 19-19 draw during regular time, before Kenya claimed the win in extra time.
First half snapped up once again by Kenya and by William Barker. Look at him go, the man they call Big Willie. An IRB Sounds Player of the Year nominee. Couldn't quite get away on that occasion.
In the other matches played, South Africa lost to Fiji. England survived a late scalp against Australia, as Samoa defeated Argentina. While Russia played Japan in the bowl final, Samoa claimed the plate trophy after edging Canada. Fiji and Kenya battled for third place, as it was a battle for supremacy between world champions New Zealand and England in the main cup final, before the Rugby World Cup curtains came down in Russia on Sunday night. Mbaka Collins, GBS News.
The Kenya Rugby Sevens team with their own version of a happy dance. Now, Gor Mahia was this afternoon held to a barren draw by Mombasa-based Bandari FC in the only Tusker Premier League match played at the City Stadium. Despite many chances on goal, both sides failed to shake each other's net, and the chance for Gor to jump second went begging.
With a chance to jump to the second position on the log, Gor Mahia had numerous chances through Paul Kiongera and Danny Serunkuma that went unanswered. In the 18th minute, however, Gor Mahia suffered a scare, with the coastal side missing a chance to score the first goal as Shaban Kenga narrowly missed Alibai's cross inside Kogalo's 18-yard box. In the 22nd minute, Kiongera had a superb solo run, crossing to Serunkuma, but the effort was wasted by Edwin Lavatsa, whose close-range shot was blocked by Bandari's goalkeeper Wilson Obungu and cleared off the danger zone by Abdul Latif Omar. There was a good display by Wilson Obungu, who came out more than once to clear the shots directed to the goal. The second half saw similar instances, with Alibai on Bandari's striking force a thorn in the flesh of Kogalo, and as Danny Serunkuma and Kiongera tormented the visitors' defense line.
Serunkuma weaves his way into the box as well, cut off.
There was a couple of substitutions from both sides, but these two never fostered any results. In the extra time, Bandari was left with 10 men after Humphrey Okoti was shown a direct red card for dangerous play on Paul Kiongera. These two didn't favour Kogalo and the match ended 0-0. Gor Mahia remained on the 5th slot and Bandari second. Tomorrow, Thika United has a chance to solidify their lead as they meet AFC Leopards at the Nyayo National Stadium from 3 p.m. Florence Ndongo, GBS News.
Florence Ndongo there wraps up GBS Sport News. Well, let's take a look now at tomorrow's weather forecast. Well, thank you so much for watching GBS Late Night News. If you have any comments or suggestions, send them to newsdesk@gbskenya.com. My name is Eric Munene. Do have yourself a good night.